You ready?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raise Your State videocast number 2. I'm here with Michael Toru. My name is Alex, and we're going to take you for a little trip, talk about some interesting things, including the state of affairs, what a COVID Christmas looks like, community, tribe, self-mastery, above all, raising state. And to start it off, we're going to give you a little humdinger to plug in your sound system. We're starting off every one of these with a beautiful song. And if you don't want to listen to music, you don't have the time, well, take the time. But if you really don't want to listen to music, you can skip ahead. We're going to have this indexed for you in YouTube. However, I urge you to take 4 minutes and just sit back and relax. Put on some headphones, turn up the volume, wash away the day, and remember that life is beautiful. Welcome to Raise Your State videocast number 2.
Smoky Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful track that was. Holy smokes.
Oh,
As always, it's going to be linked in the description in the video. If you like that song, please follow them on SoundCloud, follow us, buy the track, download the track, support the artist. Good music is a beautiful thing. And if you listen to that whole song and you're dancing with us, then you realize what a gift good music is. You'll have a piece of music like that for years and years and years to come. Play that at a dinner party in 10 years, play that chilling out at home with your lady or your man, and just vibe, right? It's not some dance floor banger. It is shoulder bopping good times, and that's the beauty of music. How do you feel, Michael?
I feel tuned up after that. Yeah, it's clean. It's like clean energy. It's easy to sink into.
Very digestible.
Mm-hmm.
It's and again, we said this last time, but it's not something you're going to hear on the radio because it's not this blockbuster. It's not a big thrill. There isn't a big drop. It's not this big hook. It's nothing but class.
Mm-hmm.
Oozing class.
Oozing class.
Oozing class.
Oh.
We're back at you with Raise Your State, and we have some upgraded mics, so hopefully the audio is sounding a little bit better. And we have some 4K video footage on the way. We have new camera gear that Michael just purchased.
Mm-hmm.
So coming to you hot. We're going to be upgrading the experience.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Create the best experience possible for the people.
That's what it's about. And we're very happy to have you here. Thank you for watching. These are the early days. We know that it's not going to be an overnight success. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to create a bit of an archive for thoughts, philosophy, evolution about ways to raise state. And this is it's just the inception. It's just the start. And so, yeah, we're very grateful for you to follow along. And if you gain value from any of this, if you like that song, hit that like button, subscribe, join along. It does help, and it encourages us to keep on going. Not that we need you to. We're gonna be keeping at this because we believe in the mission.
The mission, raise your state, baby.
As you can tell, this time we had something a little different. Glass of wine at the table.
Glass of wine.
And that's because me and Michael wanted to talk about, among other things, alcohol consumption, alcohol in society. And I think it's going to be an interesting conversation because normally, Michael, you don't tend to drink that much.
Yeah, I honestly, this glass of wine, so we're currently, the date is December, a little past December 15th, 2020. And this year, this is maybe like the second, maybe the third bit of alcohol I've drank this year.
In the year?
In the whole year.
Wow.
Yeah. And the only reason I did, well, you offered it to me.
Yeah.
Had a beautiful bottle, Jupiter, sit on there.
Côte d'Iron from France. Very nice.
And it smelled good. And I was like, you know what? Why not? And it's just like a little bit.
Just a splash.
Just a splash. But yeah, normally for me, I find it like it gets to that point where it tunes me down. And I think I've been resistant against alcohol too, because in my life I've tended to all or nothing. So even with weed smoking in the past, like if I was gonna smoke weed, it's like, let's hit the bong, boys. Right? Yeah. Let's go as hard as we can.
Yeah.
Same with alcohol. Like when I was 18 and 19, it got ridiculous. I had a nickname that I can't repeat on this podcast, but it was not a good nickname. And basically related to, going hard every time that I drank, and it was like blackout, puking type of thing, right? Yeah. And then I ended up getting a disease called ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune disease. Wasn't necessarily caused by alcohol, but alcohol certainly did not help.
Right.
And yeah, from there I had to make the decision to like quit, because like when I was drinking alcohol, it was just like, it was making the disease so much worse, and I could tell it. Like every time I drank, it was like noticeable, right? Yeah. So that's like, I kind of quit, and then I just haven't really drank a lot since. There's been like periods where I've kind of like, in somebody's wedding, like a friend's wedding, I've kind of like gone into it a little bit more or something. But for the most part, from 20 to almost 33 now, very little alcohol.
Yeah.
Very little.
How has the social pressure been living in a society that drinks?
That's a good question. At the beginning, especially when I was still in like early 20s and stuff, and friends are going hard, you're going traveling a bit, there's hostels, there's like, it's all around you. I mean, it's still all around me, but especially when you're younger, it's like the thing to do, right?
It's the only thing to do, it seems at times.
It seems at times, but I mean, one of the things is us living in British Columbia where we do, kind of like Amsterdam too. Like it's a marijuana haven.
Yeah.
So since marijuana was like such a big thing, I would just smoke weed,
Mm.
right? So it's still like having that social lubricant. They're obviously two very different substances, but
Yeah.
and I would just tell people. I mean, I had a legitimate thing. Like I got surgery, got my large intestine out. So people would like kind of go into like digging at me, be like, "Why don't you drink?" And I'd be like, "Well," and then I just tell them, and if they were like still, I'd be like, "Show them the scar,"
Yeah.
and then they're just like, "Okay, well."
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's always there a little bit, not so
Yeah.
much anymore, but used to be a lot more.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, because without the health condition, it's it's hard not to drink.
Yeah.
Because in those moments when somebody wants you to get on their vibe, get on their level, to participate, when somebody sees you and they want to be having fun with you and they're getting loose and drinking, it's like it can be like a tractor beam, right? And if you have a health issue, you've been through health issues, you have that hard stop, right? You can say because of my health, and it's true, and you think about it, and you have real residual effects on your body. But if you don't have that, it's I find it's very hard to not drink in society.
Hmm.
At least it was when all the restaurants were open and people were meeting and there was nightclubs and all that kind of stuff. But for me, alcohol's also gone in ebbs and flows like most people. And I remember the first time I blacked out, or I guess I don't remember it, but I remember of it. And I think about it now, and it's like no wonder parents get horrified when people drink until they black out. It's a scary, scary thing,
Scary, man.
right? Like you drink so much, your body shuts down to prevent you from poisoning yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually today I was, out and about walking around and I saw this guy who was clearly intoxicated and he was at the brink of I feel like he was at blackout drunk, like where he probably doesn't remember it. And he was just almost to the point where he was like passing out on the ground. I was like, oh my God, man, like, whoa, that's heavy. It's
It's
heavy.
gone, man. And to soothe yourself in a prickly world, in a prickly capitalist world that doesn't care about the downtrodden and the broke ass,
Mhm.
right? Where people are looking out for themselves. It's everywhere, right? COVID's shutting down everything. It's not shutting down liquor stores from opening at 11 o'clock in the morning.
No. And I mean, liquor stores have been busier than ever. Like we both live in, Victoria in this small, well, this James Bay is like a smaller area at least. And
Mm-hmm.
in the village, I don't know about you, but
Oh,
like I go
lineups.
lineups every day. There's a lineup
Lineups.
every day
It's
at the liquor
insane.
store.
Here's something crazy, man, that I notice when I'm in the liquor store. I go into the liquor store and I will see liquor addicts where liquor is clearly ruining their lives. And they're going in and they just have enough money to buy a little Mickey of vodka, right? Or to buy some tall cans of extra strong, extra cheap beer, just enough to get them hammered, whatever they can get together with their pennies that they've just begged for on the streets. And the moment they get those cans, they scurry out the door and they've literally just gotten their drug, gotten their fix from a government certified liquor store, a BC liquor store. And you don't see that in a marijuana shop ever.
Ever.
You don't see somebody coming in, where's my, and again, it's less of a cruel mistress when it takes you, when it's out of balance, right? Maybe it dulls your edge, but alcohol, man, it can be devastating.
Oh, it's life ruiners, family ruiners. And it's baffling that, yeah, that's legal. Like you said, it's government certified. And yeah, I mean, I don't understand. And then things like if you going to go down deeper down the rabbit hole, like why are things like mushrooms, like the fact that like, something like magic mushrooms are not legal is like in some ways it's like just baffling because it's like it's grown in nature. You can go literally out to like a cow pasture in the fall and you can find them.
Totally. And one of them will change the way you think about society and how well you integrate in a capitalist world. And the other will soothe your pains and have you entering back into the same hypnotic state, doing the same things, trapped in the same loop. One will wake you up, one will blast you out of your, I mean, if you do it right,
If you do it right.
it'll blast it. I mean,
Context.
hopefully, It'll
Mm-hmm.
blast you out of your mind and your ego so that you can have perspective on your own life and see your own life, maybe for the first time, so that you can adjust, right? And there is not one case ever of somebody dying from consuming psilocybin from the mushroom itself. Yes, some people have eaten handfuls of mushrooms and ran out into traffic. Yes, some people have jumped off some bridges, but very small cases. But nobody documented has died from actually eating psilocybin magic mushrooms. That to me, when I found that out, was like a green flag. Like, go check it out,
Mm-hmm.
because you can take a 2 6er of vodka and chug it, and you can kill yourself
Oh
if you
yeah.
haven't had water for 6 hours and you're a 90-pound woman. You can just kill yourself,
Yeah.
right? So very strange, man. And so you might be asking yourself, why are we drinking wine?
We ain't saints.
And we ain't saints, and we're regular people, and enjoyment is important, and moderation is important. But when it comes to you, Michael, like, I know you don't drink that much, um, but how can you justify drinking wine in a situation like this?
Mm.
After everything we've said of it ruining lives, and like, how do you, why?
It's a really good question. I mean, for me, that's kind of why, to be honest, I don't drink wine overall. Is like for a wine like this is actually genuinely like a tasty wine. I'm enjoying the taste of it.
Mm.
For the most part, though, I don't like enjoy the taste of barely any alcohol.
Yeah.
For the most part, like there's again some that I do. Basically, beer, no, not at all. Some
Yeah.
wines, yeah. But even the effect that I get after it, like even if it's just a small amount, like this will be fine. But if it's like had a little bit more than this,
Yeah.
maybe double this,
You'll feel it.
yeah, I don't overall love like I mean it kind of gets you loose and whatnot, but I just don't overall love the feeling. Like
Yeah.
I think for me it's like I'd rather have those once a month hero dose of mushrooms,
Yeah.
like take 10 grams and let's go on a journey type of thing.
Yeah.
Or, once in a while, yeah, smoking out with the vape or something. Right now with weed, like I'd rather have those experiences for my consciousness, I guess. That's overall why. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying that other people shouldn't drink. And I think that's the other thing. Is like, yeah, alcohol can be a life ruiner for sure. But at the same time, it can also be a beautiful thing. And it's like, it's been something that human beings have been doing for hundreds, not thousands of years, right?
Thousands. Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's a beautiful craft and it's a beautiful art in some ways. So, like, why do you drink?
Great question. I mean, a lot of it speaks to what you just said, like the craft and the art, the culture
Mhm.
of it, right? And not the pure pressure. Like when Sarah and I get a bottle of wine, it's for our enjoyment. And like we spend most of our time together sober, but every once in a while, a bottle of wine, A, it's delicious, B, it's something else, C, you are altering your state. And there is something human beings have been doing since the dawn of time, and it is altering their state through whatever means, through sweat lodges, through fasting, through hyperventilating, right? Wim Hof breathing, through meditation, you name it, right? We love to alter our states. And I think it's because we like novelty, right? And if we live in a world where we're not getting enough novelty, or we haven't created a life with enough novelty, um, it can be a slight novelty agent, and it can butter you up a little bit. It can loosen you up, and it can be something different. And for instance, with Sarah and I, like, she doesn't smoke weed,
Yeah.
right? And so weed is my preference because it's, physically healthier, um, but it doesn't suit her, and I respect that. And so alcohol is it's an easy way to change our state and enjoy, something delicious together. And at my highest state 20, 30 years from now, do I think I'll be drinking? I don't know. I'm pretty torn between that. One side of me wants to think that I'll be like this super monk who's just so high vibe that I never drink. The other side of me would be a little bit sad because of the cultural aspect. My family's French, grew up in the restaurant industry. My great grandfather had a restaurant. My grandfather had restaurants. My dad has had multiple restaurants. I've been in and around restaurants, and just food and wine as a culture, I think, is just like beautiful and fun. But the late Terence McKenna famously said, culture is the enemy. And that's because culture dictates how you will act, regardless of what you think, because there's culture in place.
Mm-hmm.
I eat meat because my family does. I drink alcohol because we're French,
Mm-hmm.
right? and insert anything, right? And culture is like this program based on your heritage, based on what your parents have taught you, based on what you believe about your heritage, that programs your actions. Is it clear thinking? Not at all. Does that mean it's not beautiful? No. I mean, a family dinner, drinking wine, getting loose is beautiful. Would I rather, with my parents, be able to be completely authentic and open, sober, and meet them at that level? 100%. Maybe one day it'll happen. But I know that if we share a glass of wine or two, um, we're laughing a little bit harder, we're a little bit quicker to hug, and it just butters everything up a little bit. So that's partly why I drink.
It does grease the wheels, you know.
It does grease the wheels, and we're not in the Garden of Eden anymore, right? It is hard out there, and people like to have outlets, and some outlets are more dangerous than others, and some outlets are safer. But drinking wine, I mean, obviously, isn't that crazy? And so I'm drinking wine now. I don't know how long I'll drink it for, but for everybody watching, like, you probably have a pulse, and if your drinking is healthy or unhealthy. And I think that's the most important thing, is to have a pulse on that. Is it healthy drinking or is it unhealthy drinking? Here's a rule of thumb that Sarah and I try to stick to. Um, Only drink when you're celebrating something. It can be celebrating hanging out with friends, right? Making a podcast, right? Celebrating getting through COVID without dying from this deadly pandemic. We'd be drinking every day.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking alone by yourself at home while you're watching Netflix, it might be indicative that it's not the healthiest habit. Should you beat yourself up for it? No, but awareness, I think, is key.
That's key, yeah. It's a slippery slope though, because you can start to, I know that's what happened with me with marijuana. I'd be like, I'd go into these, binges where I would be like love-hate relationship with her, and then I'd quit, and I'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna do it anymore. And then I'd like quit for a couple of months, and then I'd be like introduce it back into my life. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna have intention every time I smoke marijuana. And I would do pretty well, but then it started to be like that.
My intention's to have a party.
Yeah, right. My intention's like, and it'd have to be like, again, that purpose or that intention. But it would just be a slippery slope into, it started out as, the intention, the purpose is that I'm going to manifest my dreams and my goals. And then it'd be like, okay, I'm like, I'm down at the beach. I want to celebrate being down at the beach. And then just be like, I'm watching this YouTube video now. I want to celebrate watching.
We're going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. It's slippery.
It's slippery. Oh, sorry for the rumbles, folks. We're doing this in my basement. But yeah, man, it is slippery. And I think about this year not having family gatherings the same way as normal. And I know my alcohol consumption is going to be way down. But I will drink wine over Christmas because it's cozy and I want to, And I think one of the hardest things about living in North America is we're taught that so many things are bad for you. It's all bad for you. It's bad for you. And so when you're drinking the glass of wine, instead of just enjoying the glass of wine, you're thinking about how it's not the right thing for you. And because of that, I actually wholeheartedly believe that it's doing more damage. It's the placebo effect. It's the power of your mind, right? It's like, there have been people who have gotten over cancer inexplicably because they have lived in a reality where they do not believe that they can die or they have cancer, right? And the cancer has gone away. There's case after case after case of this. And then there's cases of people dying from a broken heart.
Yeah.
Right? Which is in your head. It's your self-inflicted suffering that you're rolling around in because you can't get outside of your own mind, right? And so the power of the mind is crazy. There's some people who just think they're sick. And I'm sure you know a few. I know a few in my life. They just, I'm sick. I'm sick. I am sick.
Yeah.
The victimhood put on me, I am. The me is sick, right? And when you flip that on his head and you make statements of power and you believe them and you put energy into it, things change. If just at the very least in your own mind, right? Not necessarily even manifesting craziness towards you, which I think that's how it happens, but just in your mind, you will have more energy. You'll pop out of bed a bit quicker, right? But the moment you're convinced I am sick, you're a victim. And one of the things COVID, this whole situation has done is it has everybody thinking they have pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I got my tonsils removed. Oh my God, COVID's going to kill me. Oh, I had an appendix removed. Oh, I had heart surgery. Oh, I had this, that, and the other. Oh, I got diabetes. I'm overweight. Oh, I what do they call it? I'm a vulnerable category, right? I
Mm-hmm.
am, and then they state this victim state of having a depressed immune system. I am predisposed, right? COVID could get me.
Mm-hmm.
How are you setting yourself up?
It's yeah, the victim mentality. It's powerful and it's insidious. And I was there, like going back to when I was sick, and I had those surgeries and all sort of class. Man, I had such hardcore victim mentality. And like before that, it was like, oh, poor me. I'm like 19, 20, should be in the prime of my life, and I have this thing that's like I'm almost dying type of thing. And then after I got the surgery, it was like I identified so much with that too. It was like, oh, I've can't do this or like I would just make excuses because like I've had this condition, I had this surgery, and like I'd use it like kind of as a crutch a little bit. It was interesting, and it's it's interesting to see like by like yeah believing in those I am statements, like how debilitating that can be in your life, right? And yeah, we see it all over society. And I think what you're talking about with people through the power of their mind curing themselves, and if people doubt this, and they're like, "Well, this is two guys in their basement talking about curing cancer," but it's like one of the most credible people for this is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I mean, the man is, I mean, there's like person after person that they've proven this with through his, methodologies and stuff and the power of the mind. Like people are going on stage, like, and they're like, legit have like giant cancerous lumps. And through his techniques and stuff, they were like literally like those lumps are gone. They're curing themselves just the power of the mind and like breath work and these other things. So back in the matrix.
But yeah, I mean, talking about alcohol, I think there's a lot of people using alcohol right now to try to fill the void left by the lack of purpose. And I think that's where it can get dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I know that my weed smoking and my alcohol intake gets off the rails when I don't have a project going. And my depression, right? People think that you either are depressed or you aren't. It's like this sliding scale of depression. You can be a little bit depressed, a lot depressed, not very depressed, not depressed at all, right? Like it's this scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure everybody listening has dealt with depression in some way. I mean, I couldn't imagine a human that hasn't, unless you're like an enlightened master. And I think that people right now, one of the hardest things is they're at home. They, a lot of people are getting money from the government, right? As you should. Um, they have things like alcohol. They have things like Netflix. They have things like legalized marijuana. They're sitting at home. They're told they can't meet their family. They're told they can't hang out with other human beings because of this deadly virus that's ravaging the world and killing everybody. And yeah, man, it's a tough time right now.
It's a really tough time. And like thinking about, in the statement here in Canada in British Columbia, they're like, well, Christmas is just gonna have to be over Zoom this year. Like just having, Christmas over Zoom, which is like it's just not taking in the full scope. And I get that, I want to give our government the benefit of the doubt that in some ways, like especially the people like, the Bonnie Henry, who's our what's her official role, like health
Chief medic,
chief
something.
chief yeah, medic or something.
Yeah.
I think she's doing her best and she's bound by the powers that be, I guess you could say. But it's not taking the full scope of things in terms of, there's people that like my mom, for example, that like have no, where she lives in Kamloops, like, which is across the ocean and into the interior, like 8 hours away from here. She has nobody else. And if she's going to spend Christmas alone, like that's incredibly isolating. And like people are dying of just isolation, man. And like, what's like the repercussions of that? And like, like all the mental and emotional health, like suicides are going up across the board. I mean, that's not just in older people, like that's, teenage girls. It's gone up like 250% or some crazy percentage. Don't quote me on that, but it's gone up insanely in like the last 10, 20 years. And, why aren't we addressing things like this? Like, why aren't we addressing more drug and alcohol abuse? And like I'm not saying that COVID is not important and that we shouldn't take it seriously because COVID is a thing. um, but is it as deadly as they say it is? Do we need to be self-isolating to the degree that we are?
Dangerous. It's a dangerous conversation we're having.
Yeah.
And we're in an era where ideas can be seen as dangerous,
Hmm.
and so dangerous that some would deem worthy of censorship,
Hmm.
which is crazy too. And it's interesting because we're living at this time. Here we are, man. Like, the book burning is happening. When a video is deleted off YouTube, it is the equivalent of burning a book. Some people will say, especially older people, they'll say, no, 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 a book is different. It's a book. It's bound. It had to go through a printing press. It had to go through an editor. Anybody can make a YouTube video. And yeah, sure, you're right. But some YouTube videos or documentaries or productions have more well thought research than a lot of trash books put out there. There's a lot of garbage that's printed, right? The newspapers are printed on paper, right? And some of the greatest minds of the world are on YouTube making presentations, right? Take TED Talks, for example, right? Like, there's some brilliant minds on there. You can't say that YouTube um, isn't a viable platform for transmitting information. And so when they start to censor these things, I personally think we should all be reading the books that they're trying to burn, right? We should all be really focused on the videos they're trying to remove, because they're not removing videos of children eating Tide Pods, right? If I made a video telling people, hey, you could go home and eat a bag of salt and, effectively kill yourself, um, I could get that video published. But if I put a video up saying, hey, like, go out and hang out with people and disregard CV and all these different things, they have algorithms that'll just pick up the word COVID, right? COVID, and censor videos. And it's happening all over the internet. It's very crazy.
Hmm.
Very, very crazy. Not to get all doom and gloom about this stuff. And hopefully this isn't encouraging you to dome a bottle of wine, but it's important to talk about these things and what you can do during this holiday season to stay high vibe.
Stay high vibe. And I know one of the things that help me stay high vibe is like, having things like, adaptogenic mushrooms and these like plant medicines and stuff like that. While we're at it, we should have some herb mana. But yeah, it's one of those things that when I'm feeling low vibe, man, I like to have me. Thank you, sir. Take this with a little bit of wine.
Taking my high potency adaptogenic plants and mushrooms with some Cote red wine.
Mm, mm. Cheers. Cheers.
But yeah, this podcast, while we're at it, or this video cast, is brought to you by Urban Mana, which is our company. We decided to create a medicinal plant and mushroom supplement because they work. There's tons of scientific studies proving the effectiveness of medicinal plants and mushrooms. They've been used in traditional Chinese medicine for hundreds of years, some thousands of years, like in the case of reishi and ashwagandha. And these things work. But in starting to use these substances, I realized that there was a big gap in the market where there's a lot of bullshit out there. And when it comes to supplements, it is the wild, wild west. You go on Amazon and you type in medicinal mushroom, and 9.99 out of 10 products you'll find are complete garbage. And that's because the people making these things are taking advantage of the lack of knowledge of the consumer, because it's relatively new. So somebody will hear about medicinal mushrooms on a podcast like this one, or like Joe's podcast, or Paul Stamets speaking, or any of these guys, and they'll say, okay, medicinal mushrooms, I want to try that. Reishi mushroom, chaga mushroom, cordyceps mushroom. These things have become not household names, but on the West Coast, like, a lot of people know about these things, and they work. They're incredible, but again, a lot of the products are bullshit because they're hiding the most important information from the end user, and these are things like active compound levels. So you can take the biggest brands out there, from the top mycologists out there, who are apparently the guys who know everything, who have TED Talks and have millions of views and tons of followers and seem all, scientific about this stuff. When you actually look at their products, they're garbage. There is no medicinal mushroom product you can buy on a shelf in North America that advertises the active compound levels. And the only reason a company doesn't advertise the active compound levels is because the product is so low potency that they don't want you to know how strong it is.
Mm-hmm.
So think of right now, anybody watching, think of your favorite medicinal mushroom company or one that's really famous that you think they must be legit. Look on the back of the box, go online, go on Google, look at the product itself. If it doesn't show the active compounds inside of the mushrooms and the percentage of them, it's a garbage product that's a waste of time. And I found this out by literally spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on different supplements, and the effects were all over the board. And I didn't understand like what made one more potent than the other. Some of these products say they're super extracted, heat treated, micronized, and chop it up in little bits and like all these different things. And it's like none of them are actually saying anything of merit, right? If somebody says my extract is super potent and it's a 10-to-1 extract, that doesn't tell you how potent the product is. You can't go test it in a lab across the world and they'll tell you, yeah, it's a 10-to-1 extract. It doesn't work that way. What you're looking for is the active compounds. So in the case of something like cordyceps, which is a medicinal mushroom that gives you energy through a bunch of different modalities, if the level of cordycepin and adenosine aren't listed, which are the active compounds, you literally have no way of knowing how potent the supplement is. And every single cordyceps product that you've ever looked at or ever tried to buy hasn't shown you that level. Mm-hmm. And that was the gap in the market we saw. And so we decided to start our own company. And that's how Urban Mana came to be. And that's truthfully how Raise Your State came to be, because the mission statement of Urban Mana is Raise Your State. Mm-hmm. Now, Raise Your State is evolving into something else, which is beautiful. But Urban Mana is the most potent and bioavailable medicinal plant and mushroom energy supplement on the market. And that's a bit of a mouthful, but basically it's 5 high-potency plant and mushroom extracts that are brought to you in levels of active compounds that have never been seen before on the market. And that's not because I'm growing these things myself. It's because we went to the producers and we said, how do we make a better supplement? And they say, spend more money, buy a better quality extract. We can concentrate these things again and again and again and again. And all of these main companies that you're seeing selling their stuff for $40, $50, $60 a bottle are using $1 worth of ingredients, right? Like appalling potency. It's so low potency. All they say on the package is high potency, and they don't give you any other information. It's like buying gasoline without knowing the octane rating.
And the reason that a lot of these companies are winning is because, for those that don't know, like my background is marketing and branding and things like that. And the reason those companies are winning is because they're spending that $1 and they're selling the product for, even if they're selling it for, $30, $40, like that's a giant margin. They're putting a big chunk of that into marketing, spending it on, Amazon ads, on Facebook, YouTube, Google, whatever, you name it. And that's why they're winning. And they have great branding. They have the most beautiful packaging that you can imagine. And you're right. I mean, as a consumer, I didn't know this until you explained that to me. I had no idea about, active compounds and like seeing that on the box. And as a consumer, you would never know that.
You'd never know it. And yeah, medicinal plants and mushrooms work 100%. There's boatloads of studies, but you need to actually get a proper product. And when it comes to medicinal mushrooms specifically, if it's not extracted, if it doesn't say extracted on the packaging, it's almost not bioavailable at all, because of the cell structure of how a mushroom is created, made out of a substance called chitin, which actually encapsulates and contains the active compounds. So if you can't break that down because you don't have the right enzymes in your body, which most people don't, you can be eating hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of reishi, cordyceps, and chaga and literally not getting any of the active compounds because they're trapped inside the mushroom. But there's layers to it, because even if you could get to the active compounds, it's not concentrated enough because they're buying an inferior product. So that's why we started Urban Mana. It's amazing. Check it out. Yeah, we're just getting started, but we're so confident that we post our third-party lab studies right on our website for you to see. We're 100% transparent. We have multiple labs from different parts of the world verifying the levels of active compounds, and there's no marketing bullshit. What you see is what you get. And I'd urge anybody else saying, the brand I buy is good. I know it is. I'd urge you to contact their team, their head office, and ask for the lab results of how potent it is. They're not going to give it to you. And there's only one reason, and it's because it's not a good product. It's just not. And like you said, these days marketing wins.
market wins.
right? So medicinal plants and mushrooms definitely a way to raise your state, and it should be seen. It should be seen like it's a superfood. It should be seen like part of your diet,
Yeah.
right? Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine,"
Hmm.
right? And it's like that's what we're doing here. All natural, no caffeine, no BS, just the good stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's like when I take a mana, it's, yeah, we've talked about it, clean burning energy. I just feel like it doesn't feel like, and I don't really drink coffee a lot, but I, have caffeine once in a while in teas or things like that. And, with that, it's more, maybe not so much on tea, but, I hear the experiences and I've had a couple of my own with coffee. It's like more of that kind of like this, and there's more of that, right? And it's like,
Right.
I feel with, a Rumana and like these better quality plant and mushroom medicines, it's just this like, I feel like I can go through my, whole day and like I just don't have that dip. There's usually like a dip around 3, 4 o'clock. I'm just like, oh, I could go for like a nap or something, especially during the winter, like hibernate like a
Yeah.
bear,
Yeah.
And I feel like with Urbana, it's like, yeah, I just don't have that as much.
That was the aim of creating the product. And our society is used to what they think is energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go drink a coffee, you think you're gaining energy, right? I'm going to energize. I can't talk to anybody until I have my coffee first thing in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? What kind of a mistress is that? What kind of a state is that to live in? And then people eat something like a medicinal mushroom and they say, well, I'm not being energized the same way. It's like, well, you're used to 2 Americanos a day, right? You're used to whipping your adrenal glands with this caffeine to produce this fight or flight in your body, where your body is literally freaking out and sending energy, borrowing from one area to pay the other area.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pied Piper comes to collect. That's what the crash is. That's why you come down. That's why you get the jitters. That's why it's unsustainable, right? And yeah, people are used to caffeine. They're used to that buzz, right? And so for our energy supplement, part of what we're going to try to do is to educate people on what holistic, sustainable, clean burning energy actually feels like. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a position of clarity. It's not a buzz. You're not twanging, ready to just go crush tasks and get on an elliptical trainer or a bike and just crush it. It's not really like that, right? It's how do you step out of bed and move through your day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it level headed, clear, and focused, or is it racy and all over the place, playing whack a mole with your problems as they come up,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's kind of why we created the product. But aside from taking good supplements, which are definitely a way to boost your state in the off season, um, another one is just nutrition, right? I find it hard this time of year to eat like salads and like healthy things. I just want like stews and like
Mm-hmm.
heavy foods, right? Like cozy kind of foods.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do for diet at this time of year?
Yeah, I'm more like you. I mean, it tends to be a little bit heavier. I go in different ways. Like during the summer, yeah, more salads, more like things that feel ideally like lighter in my body. And this time of year, it's typically like a lot of things that feel a little bit heavier, like having some good meat, like a nice steak, some potatoes, things like that, like
Yeah,
good old Canadian Canadian meal. Uh, yeah, feels good in the body. And I mean, I think listening to the seasons is so important. And to be honest, I would even like to even be deeper into like seasonal eating. I find
right.
um, we have Red Barn. Red Barn is this market that we have close by, and they make these beautiful wraps. And I'm straight up addicted to these wraps. You can get just like they say the wraps are as big as the barn, right? You can
Yeah,
fill them up with so much stuff. I go there. It's so convenient. They're relatively cheap, right?
yeah,
But ideally, I'd like to have more stews and more soups and things like that. It's warming and good for the body, right?
yeah. And yeah, man, I agree. I think that people get very caught up in like what should I be eating instead of what do I
Shit.
want to eat.
Yeah, and
And
I
I
get
think
caught in
there's
that.
there's a little dance in there too, right? Like it's not bad to want to eat heavy, delicious food to feel cozy, right? It's in the winter that just naturally happens. I don't want to eat a salad in winter. I really don't.
Mhm.
But at the same time, getting all your nutrients is super important. And that's part of the reason we've been juicing more and things like that, which are, I think, important, especially when there's a worldwide pandemic
Oh yeah.
ravaging the earth.
ravaging
We shouldn't be
the.
laughing at these things. There are people going through hardship, and that is real. But yeah, I might just have some dangerous ideas about what I think is actually going down, which we shouldn't talk about because YouTube will take us off the air. It's dangerous.
Yeah,
Can't talk about that.
yeah. There's certain things that. Yeah, I mean it's complex.
It's a complex issue. But I was talking to my buddy today in England about his state, and it reminded me we should bring it up on the podcast because I think it's what a lot of people might be going through. And he's been pushing his business really hard. Over the last couple of years, he's been going through kind of a spiritual awakening, which involves dark night of the soul, which involves a hardship of realizing that it's very hard to interface with capitalist society, modern society, when you're looking for the divine, when you have, I don't like the terminology, but when you're waking up to the fact that you can no longer be an HR assistant, right? You can no longer file reports for the government for a thing that, does it really matter? It'll get done if you're not there. Like, is it really impactful? And so his business is progressing, and he's an entrepreneurship because he can only work for himself now, and he runs personal training. And um and he's and I was talking to him today, and I just kind of mirrored back to him the fact that he hasn't been focusing on all areas of his life, and that's why he's been feeling a little bit down lately, most
Hmm.
likely. And then we started going over these different areas of his life and realizing that he'd been focusing so hard on business that he hadn't been focusing on relationships, on friendship, on play, on fun.
Hmm.
And all these things are things we've been talking about for Raise Your State and how it's important. And I could just see it in him that he was just kind of low vibe, right?
Hmm.
And this guy's super healthy. He doesn't drink. He's a personal trainer. He's running his own business. Like, he's moved to a small town. Like, he's got all these things that are working for him. Wonderful guy. Love him to bits. But I could see that he wasn't happy. And it's like, I used to talk to my guys that I coached in business for this, but it's like his table only had two legs to stand on because he wasn't filling up his relationship bucket, because he wasn't filling up his play bucket, right? He
Hmm.
wasn't spending time on these things. And I think a lot of people are at home right now, and their career leg of the table has fallen over, right? It's
Hmm.
disappeared. And hopefully a lot of you are strengthening your relationships at this time. But then where are the other legs of the table? Where is play, right? Where is your side project, your passion project that you're building? Right? For us, this is our passion project, part of it. And that's part of the reason it's important, even if nobody's watching, just for us, because it keeps us young, keeps us thinking about this stuff, keeps us problem solving, right? Keeps us
Hmm.
excited. But I think a lot of people at home right now who might be feeling a bit down, um, it might be because you're not playing enough. You're not focusing on your relationships enough. You don't have that passion project.
Hmm.
And it'd be very easy to sit back and to smoke legal dope and to watch Netflix during this time of government handing us checks and locking down the world. But I don't think that's going to get you inspired to your next idea.
No, it's true, and yeah, it can make you complacent. That's for sure. I mean, and it is difficult too, and especially if you listen to exactly what your government is saying, and that you don't kind of read between the lines, and then also do what's going to nourish you. Like, you have to, like, at some point, I'm not saying like go out and be an anarchist and make Molotov cocktails and burn down the city or anything like that. Far from it. But like, tuning into yourself, and like, what do I need to keep my state high, and to not be at home and watching Netflix and just smoking dope or playing that new game my buddy was telling me about, Cyberpunk or something that came
Yeah,
out.
Cyberpunk
Yeah,
2077.
2077 or something like
Everyone's
that.
playing it.
I don't play video games, but I heard about it was the biggest thing or something. Anyways, apparently it was glitchy or something and too, but um that's beside the point. But what you're talking about with your friend is true, and maybe I think it's harder than ever for people to keep, if we're going to say it's four legs, it could be five, it could be six
Right.
legs, whatever, but we'll use four. If you're four legs, and then two of them taken out, and it's like this wobbly freaking table. And I think, yeah, for a lot of people, especially at this time, it's kind of like that. And I'm not gonna say everyone, but like, I think a lot. I know that a lot of people in my community and that have even reached out to me, or I've seen that have like expressed that. And just because it's harder, you can't, big leg for people is the relationship one. And kind of relationships and play can go hand in hand a little bit, right? And not being able to go out and do these things, like, I mean, God, man, it's like finding these other avenues. How can you still get that without overtly, hosting raves with mass amounts of people and
Coughing on each other.
and
Yeah.
coughing on each other and then getting the cops to come, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the most important part is awareness. If you're listening to this right now, are you aware of these different legs holding up the table of your life? Right? And if you're feeling a little bit downtrodden, down on your ass, feeling a little bit depressed from COVID, can you check yourself and think, okay, what are these different pillars in my life and how topped up am I? When you think about relationships, when you hear that word, let's stop and focus on this for a minute. The relationships in your life, relationships with others, relationship with self, you could go into self-love, relationship with your family that you have. But even if you don't have any of these things, are you putting any intention into this area of relationship? If you're single and you're working and you're just focused on your work and there's no play and there's no passion and you're not putting intention into relationship, do you think you could possibly manifest and bring forward a beautiful storybook love? Do you think it's even possible? I don't think it's possible. Different people have different ideas, but I don't think that you can manifest great love unless you are shining, right? Unless you have intention for it, unless you want to call it to you and you trust that it will be delivered. And it's like a passion project. To anybody listening, do you have a project, a passion project, a thing that you are doing not for money because you believe in it, because it is part of your soul coming out into this world? Do you have anything? If the answer is no, you need to ask yourself why. And maybe you're listening to this so that we can ask you why. Why don't you have a thing? Michael and I just started filming and doing this, and this is one of our passion projects, right? It could be anything. But if you don't have something you're building, how can you be excited about something?
Mm-hmm.
There's all these people sitting on their asses right now, and they're upset that they're not excited for the future, excited for the next thing. It's like, what seed are you planting?
Mm-hmm.
How can you? I'm excited for the crop. I'm excited to harvest the crop. You're not planting any fucking seeds,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like to plant a seed and expect to harvest corn the next day is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with a video cast. It's the same thing with writing a book. It's the same thing with starting a yoga business online. It's the same thing with all these things. You need to plant the seed. You need to make sure it's the right type of seed, the kind of seed you want to plant, your seed. I'm choosing this seed. Put it in the ground and nurture it and water it. And you have to have faith.
And by the way, when you, when you plant that seed, most likely it's going to be, let's use a crude example, but most likely it's, if you're wanting to grow marijuana, I'm going to butcher this, but like if you put in, is it the female that grows the actual marijuana, right? So you're putting in a whole bunch of seeds, and then probably a bunch of those seeds that you put in are going to be the males that aren't going to grow you marijuana. They're going to be growing you hemp or whatever, right? But you have to plant all these different seeds to get some of those beautiful marijuana plants that eventually grow. And yeah, a lot of those seeds are gonna be freaking duds, man. And or they're not gonna work, or they'll grow eventually in totally different ways that you could have never imagined at the beginning.
Totally.
But you have to start with planting it.
Totally.
Right?
That's what this is. And this is a message for you. I have this belief that, I mean, it's the belief that a lot of people have, but it's this belief of oneness where like you are me, you are a piece of me reflecting back at me of kind of the whole. And so I try to stay in this state when I hear a message from anybody that it's a message from the divine for me, right? And that's the way to look at synchronicity. When something happens that seems coincidental, the moment you take responsibility and you say, this is for me, is the moment you can see deeper into it. And that's this conversation for you. It's like this isn't just two guys talking about starting a passion project. We've already started ours, right? We're sending this out to you so that you can sit there, and if you're listening, you can really check yourself. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You need to have awareness. You need to know that you don't have a passion project. And then you need to start asking, well, what do I want to make? What seeds do I want to plant? You need to know that you haven't been nurturing your relationship bucket. And then you need to ask yourself, what do you want? Write it down. Write down every detail you want. And the clearer you can make it in your head, the greater your manifestation can be.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't believe in like manifestation because it sounds all woo woo and kind of hokey, the clearer you can have it in your head, the clearer you can see the situations and answers that will bring you to that reality in a very logical way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're getting clear about what you want, which is important. One of the one of the one of the most infamous training techniques they have for high level Olympic athletes is they get them to visualize winning. It's the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
Run it through your head, dream about it, swim in that dream, roll around. How does it feel to win? There was some test. It was in somebody's audiobook. Maybe it was Joe Dispenza's. It was someone like that in a personal development audiobook. And they were talking about how um, they had one athlete train a ton and the other athlete didn't train nearly as much, but they visualized, these visualization. And by the time they both raced each other, the person who had focused on the visualization instead of the actual reps of training performed better. And it's because they'd seen it in their mind, because they'd visualized it. And
Yeah. I remember reading that or hearing about that as well. And yeah, they did I think it's basically what you're saying that yeah, they had somebody who didn't do any training whatsoever, like let's pick swimming. And then they had somebody who was, so the person that wasn't training at all they were doing is just reps, laps in their head.
yeah,
Just laps in their
how does
head.
that dive feel? How
Uh,
does that turn feel? How does,
Yeah. Like and just in depth, like in your mind. And then the other person was going to the pool every day, putting in the laps, swimming, right? And I think it was like the guy that went to the pool, I think was fast or whatever, but it wasn't like by that significant amount. I think it was like
right?
there was like a 20% difference or something like that, which is incredible.
It's incredible. It's the power of the mind.
Power of the mind.
Power of the mind is going to be a powerful tool for you during this time. If you can unlock it, if with your awareness you can recognize the power of your mind, and instead of dulling down these emotions as they come up or these feelings of loneliness or what have you, and drowning them in things like booze or marijuana, sit with them and recognize these different categories of your life. And if they need attention, like, what are you going to do? There's nobody that's going to come and do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you have this space to think about it, now that you're here listening to this conversation, what are you going to do?
Well, I think yeah, it's one thing too to like talk about all these different things and these. I know for me, and I mean, many different areas, but even this whole visualization thing, like I do, trying to get a lot more into future self journaling and visualization and stuff. But sometimes it's like, where do you start? You know, so it's like, how can we, for everybody watching, how can we give you those resources to go forward and do it on your own, right? And we have some audiobooks.
There's some audiobooks from an audiobook I listened to called The Creation Frequency. Amazing
Mm-hmm.
book. Um, there was something they recommended. And basically, you create intentions for your life for family, career, um, spirituality, service to others, joy, family, all these different categories. And you basically make a recording of you stating where you're at 10 years from now or whatever in an ideal world. And you make these statements and you speak from this place as if you've already achieved it. And then you take this audio recording and you overlay it with binaural beats, like 432 hertz tuned music frequencies. And you play this back to yourself
Well,
morning and night. And I made a video. I made an audio clip for this. And I've been listening to it. Put it on my MP3 player, listen to it day and night. And it's so powerful. I just started last week and it's already starting to change my life. Even if
well,
manifestation isn't real in any regard or nothing happens, just my own mindset, hearing myself speak to myself, saying, you are strong. You've never felt healthier. You are energized in your body and you are confident like you've never been before. You take your shirt off and you feel like $1,000,000 because you're at home in your skin. Your friends and your family and your relationships are a source of power and inspiration, and you have deep respect for each other. And together, you are building something truly beautiful.
Mm,
I'm so grateful for the fact that I make $10,000 a month doing what I love,
mm,
giving to others, serving, and my gift is overflowing to the world, and I am rewarded for that fairly and beautifully. And I am grateful for the life that affords me.
mhm,
Sarah and I are over the moon at the freedoms we have, at how generous we're able to be, because we've come from a place of not having any money. And so now that we have it, it is a beautiful thing
mm,
because we have that full spectrum of experience. And the businesses are thriving. Raise Your State has 100,000 followers, right? A deep tribe. Urban Mana is booming. Our other businesses are booming. And work and play and life have become this beautiful dance where we can give our gift without draining our energy. It is up, 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 and it is beautiful. And because of this, I am overflowing with service and I give back because I understand how this world works.
mm,
I am so grateful. Click.
mm,
Finish the recording. And while this is going on, you're hearing these binaural beats whoa, 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 in your ears. It is a fucking tune up, man, to myself. It's myself speaking from that state. And as I'm speaking it in the recording, I'm getting higher and higher and higher vibe. And so if I listen to it when I go to bed and I'm not feeling 100%, I literally come out of it and I'm like, and it's the perfect meditation tailored for myself.
Oh, what was the book again?
The creation frequency.
We'll
We'll put a link.
put a link in there. Yeah.
I would highly recommend it to anybody. The audiobook is magical. Um, Amazon, for all their shortcomings, and not wanting to give Bezos some more money, yeah, Audible's an amazing app. It's incredible,
Yeah.
right? Um, and you need to have a teacher. Like part of the ways you're going to stay high vibe, yes, take medicinal plants and mushrooms. Yes, have diet. Yes, focus on friends and relationships and intention and all these things we're talking about, a passion project. But I think the biggest one that's impacted my life is always having a teacher.
Mm,
And it's not in a classroom, it's decentralized, it's on my phone, it's turning that little digital nuisance into um, the greatest education tool possible because I'm getting the right books. Because, like you said last time, everything you consume is food, junk food or good food, right? You're eating Snicker bars or you're eating kale, right? Apples, right?
yeah.
Grass-fed beef, whatever you believe in.
Oh man, I watched some junk food today on YouTube a little bit, and I was watching this who actually I really love, and he actually puts it's not even that his content is junk food, like it's actually like pretty high vibe in the sense that he's like getting you to like think about like engineering and these like the possibilities of like what you can create and stuff like that. His name's Mark Rober. He's like super famous YouTuber and stuff. Um, but every year he puts out this glitter bomb. It's called the glitter bomb. And it's like there's glitter bomb 1.0, 2.0, and that's 3.0 this year. And the idea is that so 3 years ago he had, and this is actually a rampant problem, especially in the United States, I believe. It might be here in Canada too, but more so in the States. And people stealing packages. Amazon again, stealing Amazon packages off the doorstep, right? It's a
Yeah,
huge issue.
yeah,
And so he was like, well, got fed up with it. So he created this glitter bomb, and this thing basically, when people steal it, they open it up and it just shoots them with glitter. It has skunk spray, so it smells. It has a siren. It has all these different
is there a
things, right? It
camera?
has a camera. It has cameras, so it's recording the whole
Should I go
thing,
viral? Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
it's like it's
it's
hilarious,
hilarious.
but at the same time, to be honest, I was watching this. And it's interesting. Like judgment's an interesting thing. We can go deep into that, but I was watching these videos of these people and the people that kind of took it, and a lot of these people, like just like the way that they were living, kind of the way they were looking, it felt low vibe, and it was hard to actually watch this video because those people were living that way, and I try not to like judgment's an interesting thing. And we do, you know what? It's just a fact. We judge and we want to be like spiritual masters like Anthony DeMello and like
Yeah,
not judge maybe, right?
yeah,
Monks in a cave.
yeah.
But we judge. We do as a human beings. And it's like judgment has served us in a lot of respects. It can definitely take away, but I don't know, in this instant, to be honest, like by me judging these people and be like, oh, this is kind of like low vibe, I turned it off like, a quarter of the way through because I was like, oh man, like I can't watch these people. It's bringing me down, man.
It's like watching people at the fair sitting on that little stool above the water getting pies in the face, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually they get fallen into the pool, right? It's like, what are you consuming? Like, are we focusing on the hardship of these people and why they need to steal packages? Do they feel that way? Or are we just trying to get back at them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let me have my consumerist thing. Let me have my new Amazon item. I
Mm-hmm.
am so upset I can't have it and you're taking it that I'm going to come after you and give you what you deserve, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, man. It's the me culture.
Mm-hmm.
Me, more for me. And yeah, man, this stuff's easy to realize when you have a spiritual teacher or just some sort of teacher whispering into your ear, and every day you're going to school, right? Your phone is an opportunity to educate yourself like never before. I leave this room and I go get groceries and I stick in an audiobook and I'm there for 15 minutes as I walk to the store and back, or 20 minutes or whatever, and I'm getting high vibe, high level shit from a spiritual master of a time long ago coming to me in perfect format.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. And all
I'm
of it might
blessed.
not stick the first time, but that's why you listen again and again. You find out what works for you. And eventually these things seep into your life and you find yourself getting stronger because you've been doing the reps. You've been going to Jedi training school. But if you're just a marshmallow and you get in your car and you're listening to fucking Katy Perry, I'm sorry, she's not going to give you advice in her mainstream lyrics that are going to help you live a happier life. It's not going to happen. And the hypnosis will seep in, and slowly you'll wonder why you feel shitty about your body and your mind and your status and everything. You're not listening to the right teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right? And choice. We have choice. You can decide to watch that glitter bomb video and watch it again and again, and then watch that cat video after that, and the next video, and the next video. And it's not going to kill you. It's not the end of the world. But like Anthony Mello says, like, it's about awareness. And now that you're aware of it, now that you have a tribe talking to you about it as you're watching, what are you going to do? Right? Choice, free will. You don't have to download an audiobook tomorrow that'll help tune you up. You don't need to do that. Do you like where you're at? Are you in perfect bliss and harmony? If you are, you don't need anything. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not, I mean, there are resources to help you out there. And that's part of what this podcast is about, is to echo this stuff back, is to share things that we've learned and others have learned, and to just have the conversation with people.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people are not using their phones to help them reach enlightenment.
That's a whole other conversation, and I don't know if we want to go deeper down that. I've been going into that on Joe, and he's had like all these different experts on about social media, and there's that huge Netflix. I think it's like one of the most watched on all of Netflix this year shows, and it's that the Social Dilemma, I believe, right? It's like, which is actually really cool that that many people like tuned in and actually watched it. I don't know how much of us have actually like employed. I hope a lot of people have employed, and it's woken people. I know some people who in my community that it definitely has, like they've actually like cut out social media entirely. Actually, it's helped me. I've had like definitely more awareness after seeing
Awareness.
that. Just even more awareness, and honestly, like with that junk food that I was consuming with today a little bit, I started going down a little bit of a rabbit hole with it, but then I just like was tuning into how it made me feel, and I just like cut it out. Whereas in the past, like not even that long ago, sometimes I'd be like, like kind of that screw it like mentality where I'm like, whatever, like
Just boobing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that there's place for that too. Right? Today I played a video game for about an hour by myself, building little castles, sending out my little soldiers, building some ships, and it was light and it was fun. But yeah, man, it's about that awareness of self, of like, are you abusing it? Are you
Mm-hmm.
having a glass of wine over the course of a couple of hours? Or are you having a bottle to yourself over 45 minutes? And
Are you playing a video game for 20 hours in the day wearing a diaper because you can't leave the video game and you have to poo in it? Like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to have some judgment about that. You probably need to do a
that's
check in about your
hardcore.
life.
That's deep level.
That's evil. Joe and this guy. Joe Rogan, for those of you who are like, Joe, who's this Joe?
Who's this friend of yours? Yeah.
Who's this friend? This is Joe Rogan. Joe feels like a friend that sometimes.
Yeah.
I listen to him so much, but but yeah, this guy was talking about, you know, video games and virtual reality and, you know, technology and all those things is yeah, people go hardcore, man. They go to that one extreme, and yeah, that's why, yeah, we got to check in, man, because that's not going to raise your state.
That's why you need a tribe. That's why you need people to call you on your shit,
Good
right?
teachers.
Good teachers. And like, I had this brilliant quote from somebody the other day. I forget who it was, but not my words, but somebody said something to the effect of, a lot of people think that in order to be a teacher, you need to have mastered a subject. You can only be a teacher if you're a master at it, right? Only learn from masters. And their comment was, well, that's absurd. It's like saying that your dad couldn't teach you how to play baseball as a
Yeah.
kid, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, it's like, okay. So in that respect, like, if you are willing to become a student and learn from life, you can learn in every situation, from going to the liquor store to buying a bottle of wine and seeing that drunk out of the street begging for money so he can buy vodka, right? Like, you can learn from all these situations, and you don't need to learn from a master. And if you humble yourself, then in a simple conversation with somebody you might have judged before as beneath you, you can be actually listening and actually feeling and actually learning about yourself, about the reflection you get back, about the words they're saying. And if you believe in it, you can learn from the universe and from the divine, from everybody around you, because we're all expressions of it when you're in alignment, when you're in flow state, right? Depending on what you believe. But it's that idea of being a student. But I would urge every single person listening, if you aren't regularly reading or listening to audiobooks from masters of different topics that you're hoping to become better at, you're wasting an opportunity. Plain as that.
I agree with that. Yeah. We're so blessed.
We're so blessed. We're blessed and cursed with technology.
We're blessed and cursed.
It's like there are more distractions than ever. There's more access to information than ever. And I think this is something harder for the older generations, who would think like, oh, you know, you're young, you don't know yet. You know, you're young, you know, you'll figure it out soon. It's like, nowadays, by the age of 30, you could have listened to hundreds of audiobooks from masters of all around the world, whereas 40 years ago, that was impossible. Literally impossible. You could not do it. Now it's in the palm of your hand. Now it's with you with wireless earbuds as you're walking next to the water doing push-ups, you know, like, times have changed. But just because we're technologically advanced and just because we have these resources doesn't mean that we're all benefiting from them. So again, this is a call to action. If you don't have a teacher, if you don't have a spiritual teacher, or even just a personal development teacher, a self-mastery teacher, go get one. Start at a very entry level point. Start with Tony Robbins, Get the Edge. Start with something very simple, right? I remember the first time listening to that audiobook, changed my life. Instead of going to a $5,000 conference, I had Tony, in my ears, whispering to me all these different philosophies. And not all of them clicked, but some of them did. And some of them changed the course of my life. And ever since, I've been reaching out for information ravenously, because having these teachers, it is the thing that will help you in the storm when the darkness comes. Anthony de Mello, this book Awareness, incredible book. Read that book or listen to that audiobook. If you actually can understand the concepts he's talking about, you cannot be upset without knowing that you are the architect of your situation. You can't be, because he brings in all these different ways of thinking about it that help you to reshape your mind. He says, no matter how bad you have it right now, pretend you've got, I don't know, some disease, right? In 10 years, it's going to get really bad. Your liver's failing or something. Pretend that you owe $100,000 to the government and to other people. Pretend that your business isn't going well, your relationship failed, all these different things. This might be you watching, right? Sounds terrible, sounds shitty. You could be full of calamity. And he says it's all in your head. And that's hard to grasp. But then he says, well, there are many other people around the world who, if they're in your situation, they would not be as upset as you are. Many would be grateful because you have shoes, because you're not going to die of hunger today.
Yeah.
Right? And so every fabrication of pain you have is in your mind as an expectation of where you think you should be. Right? And without that expectation of, I should be further ahead, I should be anywhere but here, you can't actually be upset with your situation. Because if you can return to the now, you are in this moment. And that is a whole experience. You're here to hear these words, right? And he just reframes the mind. And for me, if I didn't have these teachers, man, my life would be different. I'd be depressed. I'd be drinking a lot more booze. I might be on some Prozac, right? And I'd be shit scared that this Wuhan virus is coming to kill me, right? I'd be freaking out. Instead, I'm not, because you don't have to be, because statistically you're not going to die from it. Almost nobody is.
Take some vitamin D.
Take some vitamin D, some vitamin C, and some zinc. Get outside, breathe some fresh air, and change your belief. If you're telling yourself you're predisposed, change your victim mentality, right? To something more powerful, to something more beautiful, because you don't need to be afraid. Like that's what everybody wants you to be. You really don't need to be, but you're in charge of steering that ship.
It's a beautiful way to end. I think our battery's about to die. So,
ladies and gentlemen, that is the podcast.
That is the podcast for today.
Number 2, we're going to get back at you with some more, but we're going to leave you with some beautiful tunes. And we urge all of you to take one little nugget of what we've said and apply it to your life. A passion project, start it. Some intention around relationship, start it.
Yeah. And please, if you enjoyed this at all and you're still watching, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. And tell your friends if there's anybody else you think who could benefit from this experience, from joining along. Yeah, please tell your friends. We have a Facebook group that we've started. A link will also be in the description. Ask to join that and you will be inside of our tribe. Easy as that. And we'll share the best we have. So thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great evening. Good luck out there, folks.
Luck.
The enemy is fear. The opposite of that is love, baby.
Fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer. Play music.
Play music, Siri.
Play music.